Let's discuss these critical negotiations with former Deputy Chief of Staff for Senator Mitch McConnell, Rohit Kumar. He's co-leader of PwC's Washington National Tax Office. Also with us, former Deputy Director of the National Economic Council under President Biden, Seth Harris. He's now a senior fellow at the Burns Center for Social Change. Rohit, let's start with you because you were here last week on CNN News Central saying that you had a good feeling about the first meeting between President Biden and these other congressional leaders. Since then, you heard the divergent viewpoints and a meeting that got canceled on Friday. How are you feeling now?
Look, I still feel pretty good that they're going to get a deal and they'll get it by June 1 or whatever the X date ends up being. As I said last week, I expected a further communication from the Treasury Secretary as to the X date. We got that, although we didn't get really updated information. She still says could be as early as June 1, but might be a little bit later. I still think that we need a real deadline, like a hard and fast, like this is it, we go over the cliff on this day, kind of deadline to force action. But I still feel like, look, they're making progress. I understand why Speaker McCarthy is saying what he's saying, right? He needs to set expectations appropriately. This is going to be hard. We're not going to get everything we want. It's really challenging so that when he does get a deal, it feels like a victory as opposed to something like we were always going to get that and people start reading into it more than it's actually going to be available.
They think perhaps he didn't fight hard enough.
Right.
So, Seth, from your perspective, what are you looking for out of today's meeting that gives you an indication that there's reason for optimism?
Well, you'd like to see some language from Speaker McCarthy that he is moving towards the White House position on some of the issues that they're discussing. You also want to see some signal from the House Republican caucus that he's going to be able to deliver the votes. He's got a very serious problem inside the House Republican Conference. He's got an extreme ultra-MAGA right-wing group that probably isn't going to vote for anything. Then he's got some frontline districts who are going to find it extraordinarily difficult to vote for things like work requirements on some of our social safety net programs. So we'd like to see that Speaker McCarthy can make a deal that he can actually live up to. But I think that I agree that we can get to a deal between the parties. The issues have been narrowed. We pretty much know what the range of agreement is right now. It's just a matter of whether or not Speaker McCarthy can deliver.
And we saw those rifts exposed during the process of him becoming Speaker. It was a very difficult challenge. Rohit, you've spoken out about your desire to see the room shrink, meaning that this should be a negotiation between very specific parties. Who do you think needs to be out of the room today in the White House?
Yeah, look, a room that has 5 parties in it, the 4 congressional leaders plus the White House, is not a room where a deal gets done. The deal gets done between 2 parties. And in this case, those parties are the White House, President Biden, and Speaker McCarthy. Senator McConnell has made it clear that House Republicans have his proxy, or the proxy of Senate Republicans. And let's face it, whether they like it or not, congressional Democrats are, to some degree, a wholly owned subsidiary of the White House. Now, they won't see it that way, right? They will disagree with that. But the truth of the matter is, when the president is of your party and the president agrees to something, it's more than just do I like it or not like it. It becomes almost, if you vote no, it's like a vote of no confidence in the administration. So it takes on a much bigger feel than just like, do I like this, do I not like this? That doesn't mean they're going to bat 1,000. They're going to get every House Democrat, every Senate Democrat to vote for it. But they're going to get the overwhelming majority of Democrats to vote for it. And they need to be able to do a deal with McCarthy that includes some things that House and Senate Democrats aren't going to love. They're going to have to ask for forgiveness, not permission. But that's a really hard thing to do if they're sitting in the room watching you do the thing that they don't want you to do. Like, that can complicate the variable. So these deals get done, in my experience, having done several of these, actually, with then Vice President Biden, these deals get done between 2 parties, not 5 parties.
And Seth, would you be confident with President Biden alone in a room with Kevin McCarthy to get all the things that Democrats want?
President Biden is one of the great legislative deal makers in our history. He's got a long history with Leader McConnell, so I'm confident that they can make a deal. I worry about the House Republican Conference and Speaker McCarthy. But I think we have to focus on how critically important it is that we get a deal, because if there's a default, that will be absolutely catastrophic for our economy. We're going to see millions of people out of work, businesses failing, banks failing, and we're going to see interest rates go through the roof. We can't allow this to happen. We shouldn't be playing Russian roulette with our American economy. So my hope is that today will be another step on the path to getting a deal, although I'd be surprised if we got one today.
Yeah, there's disagreement about the path there, but I think everybody agrees this is something we have to avoid. Seth, Rohit, thank you so much. Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
Brianna, over to you.